Hi, I'm Chelsea Austin, and I'm the Executive Director of Dance in Color. Thank you so much for joining us today. At Dance in Color, we strive to provide scholarships to young dancers of color in order to pursue their dreams through dance and ultimately create systemic change within the dance world. We're a young organization, but in less than 6 months, we've been able to raise over $25,000 and support 3 young, talented, and inspiring, passionate girls with their dreams in dance. With over 99% of all donations going directly to our dancers, we work to make sure that their needs are covered beyond class. That means point shoes, dance apparel, and more.
I'm Adrian Mitchell, and I'm the Artistic Director of Dance in Color. As a member of the Mikhailovsky Theater, one of the last imperial theaters of Russia, the work that we are doing at Dance in Color is incredibly important to me. Similarly to the dancers that we provide scholarships for, I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been for the scholarships I received as a young Black ballet dancer. I am thrilled to introduce the first roundtable discussion in our series, Black Icons in Dance, Black Educators of Today. We are so excited to introduce you to some of the most incredible and groundbreaking Black dancers who are now helping to shape the dancers of tomorrow and to share their inspiring stories with you.
Hello, I'm Casey Morris, and I'm the Director of Development for Dance in Color. Our organization began as a group of friends and family who wanted to effect systemic change, specifically in the classical ballet community. We knew, either from experience or from viewing, that the European ideal in which the classical ballet world has grown did not properly showcase all of the talent out there, particularly the talents of young Black dancers. We hope not only to inspire young dancers, but to also educate the dance community and beyond about the racial inequalities in dance.
Hi, I'm Andrea, and I'm the Artistic Assistant for Dance in Color. I wanted to take a minute to introduce you to our scholars before the program begins. Violet, Grace, and Cassandra are all beautiful and passionate dancers, and we are so proud to support their dreams. Their training and point shoes, however, are expensive, and they will need your support to continue their journey in dance. So please click the link or QR code below to show how much you care about their future.
Lastly, I'm Dominic Wächter, the CFO of Dance in Color. I once again want to direct your attention to the bottom of the screen. There you will see a link and a QR code that you can utilize to make a donation. Please feel free to click the link or scan the code at any point during the roundtable discussion. We are grateful for your generosity in supporting our incredible scholars as we continue to grow.
We are friends.
We are family.
We are Dance in Color.
Thank you so much for joining us yesterday for part 1 of this roundtable discussion presented to you by Dance in Color. We're so excited to have you back here for part 2. And if you missed yesterday or you want to rewind and see some of your favorite parts, both parts 1 and 2 will be available on our Facebook, Instagram, as well as YouTube. We're excited to share this next part of the journey with you, and I'm thrilled to introduce Casey Morse.
So I'm happy to head back into our the question I asked before, which again is, what do you think are the most pressing issues at hand? And how do we start to see more people of color represented in ballet institutions? So Jason, go for it.
Yeah, I think there are many different areas we can tackle. So it's hard to say one's more pressing than the other, but I can relate to many things that Lauren said, like just this high level quality education. I think is very important, because I just thinking back to my path, if I had not started with a really good teacher who took the time to teach me properly first. Now being a teacher, I've seen so many students, regardless of color, who have come to audition for San Francisco Ballet and just have not had that training. You can tell, you can see it. But at the same time, as I shared about my own story, and I'm sure so many of us can relate, getting that high level training is expensive, right? I remember when I auditioned for Kirov, and I was accepted, and I was offered a partial scholarship. Didn't cover room and board, which by itself was around 16 to 18,000 for the year. That's just room and board, and then the tuition I think was another 16,000. So so that cost like is not typical for most people, like to be able to afford something like that, especially if you're living in a household where you have other siblings. And everybody has their individual circumstances. So I think, yeah, trying to make sure that these kids at a young age from their initial exposure are taught right and correctly, and have that level of training that will be able to take them to the next level when they get there, because that's something that I think will hold kids back and does hold them back. You see students where you think, wow, they could have it, or they could have had it, but certain times it often depends. Like some people don't want to give them a chance, but I'm just thankful that from the start I had the opportunity to have good training and, again, get it for free. I wasn't paying. I was on scholarship. My teacher, I walked in the first day. I was in a do-rag, shorts, and and socks. I didn't have ballet slippers. And I tried to do a class, and she told me to sit down because she said, "You're going to hurt yourself." And I don't want you to hurt yourself. But afterwards, she told me, "Just come back and I will train you." Everybody doesn't have that opportunity. Like, and it always doesn't happen where, think about at a bigger institution, at a bigger school, will a kid be able to walk into a class, and what is the likelihood of that happening? So I think there's many, many, many things to tackle, but I particularly relate to that high level of training, exposing more kids to that, getting that out there.
Absolutely. Access is 100% key.
From my experience, the most pressing issue is access, of course. I think access to the class, to the dance attire, and that is many things besides, and that's not just paying for the classes. We're talking getting there and all that. That's the most pressing issue. Past that is just having the aesthetic of what ballet looks like in directors' brains change, right? And then I have an answer for it. Evolution's going to take care of it because everybody's going to be beige, and it's just everybody going to be beige, right? I mean, that's just what's happening anyway. But I think high quality dance education is huge. I think that whole thing of starting someone in ballet and then saying, well, no, honey, you can't do this. You need to go to modern, and stopping ballet technique is crazy. If you go to modern, most modern companies I know, they take ballet also. I think that to me is a big, and what educating parents, because there's a lot of parents that are like, I'm not putting my child in that because I don't see anybody that looks like my child in that. Because that I get that a lot when I talk to parents. So I mean, there's a combination of things, but I think access is the number one hindrance.
Completely agree.
So you've traveled around the world and performed for many different audiences from different countries. I've heard amazing stories about you getting standing ovations at the Bolshoi. I would be curious if you felt a difference being in America as opposed to abroad, if there was places that were more accepting, or if it was sort of linear in your acceptance from the audience.
Acceptance from the audience, besides in Houston, that's used to me, was in South America. In South America, they seem to not care what word, you just need to come out with it, right? It was interesting because I danced at the Bolshoi, and I think they were surprised. It seemed to me that they were surprised that, because Carlos and I performed at a gala, and then one of the ballerinas invited us back the next year to perform at her gala of her 80th birthday. And she talked about us with this kind of like these two special, I felt like special things, right? And that was interesting to me. So I think besides where I've danced forever in Houston, I'd have to say South America. Well, you know, it's special to dance in Washington and New York. I know that's not abroad. That's outside of Texas. Everything outside of Texas is abroad. I mean, that's not abroad, but I felt like when I danced at Kennedy Center and when we danced in New York, that they knew what they were watching and they didn't care, right? It wasn't an issue. I felt like it was an educated audience. That's what it was. I felt like it was an educated audience. South America was an educated audience. Definitely Europe is an educated audience. I just felt like they were surprised that I looked like the Sleeping Beauty or the Swan Queen, right? I really felt that. I know that's kind of strange, but yeah.
No, I mean, I work in Russia, so I can appreciate that, of that idea of being almost like an object, because not only can he dance, but he's black, you know, so it's it's that kind of thing.
And there were two of us doing
yeah.
And then of course
They come in pairs.
We were quite bold to do Dynanaction, right? That was quite bold.
Yeah.
And so Ben was like, I don't care. Y'all blow this, you know, and don't do anything extra, because he knows me and Carlos, we're a bit competitive on stage. So we get a little bit. And he goes, no circus, no circus. They will want circus. You are not a circus animal. You are a classical dancer. I was like, all right. So that was, I think that was the best thing Ben could have said to us. Because we would have gone out there and just been ridiculous. But it's classical ballet. You know, the classicism of, you know, it's not trashy, it's classy ballet. So it was just, I don't know why I went there, why I went there, but that was just something that was really important, that you're not seen as this thing, you're a classical ballerina, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're you, because others might be able to get away with it, right? But in your case, you wouldn't have been able to get away with it.
It's that whole thing about having to be better. Because you wear that color, you have to, and I didn't really understand that. I just wanted to be the best I could be, and I trusted the process. So I said, okay, I'll do what you asked me to do. You know, I just want to be the best. But I get it, even more so now.
We're going to head to Aesha next.
I think we all agree that it's access, and access to high level education, high level training. I think also beyond that, you know, there was one thing that I think Lauren brought up, and she said that she had to deal with a lot of parents often saying, I don't want, you know, my kids, you know, getting involved in this art. I don't see them reflected, because I mean, it's not all, you know, I don't want to say that, you know, all people of color, you know, don't have the financial means to do ballet. Even those that do, you know, still may sort of, you know, feel put off by ballet. And so that's, you know, beyond the access, we now have to address, okay, are they accepted there? Because I think we're at a period now where it's been sort of this mash dash of diversity all over, you know, in every company and every school, this mad dash to diversify ballet because it's been put on full display. But we have to make sure that we're not just hiring and bringing these individuals in. And I heard, you know, Robin DiAngelo talk about this one, the author of White Fragility, that you're bringing them into toxic waters, right? That we have to make sure that the space that we're bringing them into is a safe space, right? Because it's just because we're starting to ramp up the numbers, what are we bringing them into? And to make sure that once the kids are there, that they feel welcomed, that they feel that they belong there, that they feel that it is a safe space for them, that they feel like it's not just, you know, we're just meeting some quotas, so that when they leave, they can then share that good experience. And I think that is then reaching those other parents and those other students who may have some aversion to want to go to that school or want to be introduced to ballet. Because I think more than just, that we don't see ourselves reflected in the art the way that we should. That there's also a lot of times horror stories. All of us have our individual experiences, and not all of them are happy stories. There's just certainly horror stories that I can say about myself, even from just other write-ups in articles or things that were said online about me. Things like, it's just disturbing seeing one Black body in the line of girls, and just on and on and on, these horror things. Another side to that I think, and I try to address this through the work that I do with my outreach, is that how do we see, especially, and I know Adrian, or it wasn't Adrian, it was Ikolo, I think, that brought this up as far as the difference between Black women and Black men in ballet. How do we see beauty? There was one dancer in the company always used to say, ballet is woman, ballet is woman. And, we are sort of the one that gets presented. We are the highlight. And when you think of ballet, you think of the ballerina. And well, how do we see, what is the ideal of beauty? In society, usually that ideal of beauty is a white standard. And the closest you are to that white standard, the more beautiful you become and the more beautiful you are seen. And I think that women of color, in the way that we're portrayed in the media, how we are stereotyping, the character images that are out there, is everything but what one thinks of as a ballerina. The elegance, ethereal, angelic, demure, all of these things, all of the attributes that one assigns to ballerinas are not often a Black woman in the media. And so I think that there's also this education of the audience, of audience members as a whole, of even the way that other directors or just society in general sees women of color, that we need to be seen in those roles. We need to be seen being able to, because I think technically we've shown that. I don't think that there's, with the rise of Misty Copeland, with Brown Girls Do Ballet, with so much going on, the work of Mob Ballet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I think it's visible. And with the access of social media, it's visible that Black people are interested in ballet, that we're doing it, and we're doing it on a high level. That's clear. Now, does society see us as a ballerina? That's another issue. Can they see us as a Juliet? Is this hair okay? Right? Is that okay? That's, is that seen as soft? Is that seen as classical? Those are deeper, real deep rooted issues. I think that as society as a general has to be ready to embrace and to change in this ever growing, ever evolving, as Lauren said, it's becoming more and more beige, our society in general. So I think that it's a very complicated question. It's very nuanced. There is no one single answer. There's so many things that have to be tackled, and you can't just, all right, let's just hire in more dancers. There's just so many layers to it that it's quite complicated, which is the work that, I'm trying to do beyond just being a teacher. I'm part of the diversity inclusion committee. There's transition teams that I'm a part of. There's constantly work behind the scenes that I'm doing beyond just standing in the front of the room. And so those are the issues that every day through my job, through meetings and Zooms, and that I'm tackling. But it's work. It is a lot of work, and it's so much more difficult than saying, let's just get in more dancers and let's hire them. That is definitely a step, and it's a step that needs to be made, and that education, quality education access needs to be there. But there's also so many other layers after that need to be tackled as well. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but it is a challenge.
Absolutely. It's definitely not one layer or one thing that will just change the whole world. It's going to be a lot of work, as you're doing and as you've been saying. So thank you. Next, I think it's Debra is next, right?
Yeah, I completely agree with Aesha. And I think I know a few of the students at SAB, and you know, they've said to me, you know, I feel like, is it going to be her or will it be me? And that's such a tough role to be in. You know, I was the only one, so I didn't think of it as that. But when you have like 3 or 4, it's like they still feel like it'll only be one that will be taken, because it'll be that one token, as it's always been, you know. So I totally agree with Aesha that, you know, are we putting them in a poison box? You know, it's very, very sad. I mean, there's one that took class with me over the summer, and, you know, now she's in our company, she's in Carolina Ballet now. And I feel so happy that I was able to give her that stepping stone. She auditioned in class with me via Zoom. Ricky's no longer the artistic director of the company. He still works for the company, but it's Zolly Raphael, and he took her into the company. So, you know, that really made me special, but she was at SAB. So, but she didn't think she was gonna, you know, ever get into the New York City Ballet. So, and she's of age where and this pandemic happened, she's 17. I think she just turned 18. But so, yeah, it's, you know, we try to diversify, but it's just not completely there yet. It's just, we're still talking about it. And that's what's kind of breaks my heart. You know, we're like, why can't we just move on and just, we are who we are. And you're a dancer, and that's what it is. I mean, I have to say, when I was in the school, I think I was the only one. I mean, when I auditioned for the Royal Ballet's Nutcracker, I'm almost positive I was the only Black child in the room. You know, I don't remember because I didn't think about it, but, you know, I didn't get to do party scene. You know, they put a head on me, and, you know, I was a mouse, you know. So, I mean, what if we could, it's so nice to see, you know, children of color, like in party scene, you know, we here have children of color in party scene, you know, it doesn't matter what you are, the parents are mixed, the children come with different, I mean, you know, it's kind of nice to not have that stamp put on. So we're moving forward, thank goodness, you know. We don't want anything to set us back, that's as well.
Absolutely. Ikolo.
Yeah, thank you. It is a good question. I would actually agree 100% with, will agree 100% with Aesha. The in is the key to changing it, but it's not so much the environment, I think, that the organization does. Because I was talking with Peter, and I was asking him, you know, what's going on here? What do you want to do? He's like, I want to do everything that I can. Peter Bowl is 100%, you know, and the executive director, they're 100% on board with changing the conversation, changing the culture, everything, 100%. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited to be here at PMB. But I think I remember having a conversation with one of our colleagues, Natalia Johnson. And she was telling me that it's not so much the teachers or the administration, it's the actual other girls in the class. And they're the ones that create this kind of toxic environment. They're the ones that are saying, oh, you're not good enough. You know, how come you know, and I'm sure Aesha, Andrea, Charmaine, Debra, I'm sure you guys know what that's like. The girls themselves are the ones that are like, have this kind of like this venom. And that's what turns most, I would say, most dancers of color off right there. It's this venom coming from the other students. So there you go. There's your question. How can we change that right there? And then, like Aisha was saying, everybody's having a good experience. But like, a girl is going home, Mom, Miss, you know, Susie said that I'm horrible and I'm mean, you know, and I look like crap, and I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be around little Susie, you know, like, and then there you go, turned off right away. You lose another one, you lose another, and they just start falling off. So how do you change that culture, that inside the studio, the camaraderie, you know? And again, this could be something that may be a little different between the male ballet dancer and the female ballet dancer's experience. So that's something, you know, that's where do we start with that? How do we change that? And then I would say one other thing is, I think there's two experiences with ballet in America. There's the school experience and there's the professional experience. And those are two very different experiences. And I think in a school, you know, we're there where everything is so supportive and da-da-da. And the minute you get into the company, boom, drops right off. You're a businessman, you're a businesswoman. It's about your brand. It's about your mark. You know what I mean? It's about what you can do to create your push, your drive. Nobody is there in a way supporting you like we are when we're in the school. And also, what is that job? What is the job? How many jobs are there out there?
I would say a lot more jobs in Broadway or in other performance fields that Black culture is more interested in music and acting. You know, the dance world is such a small world, or even music videos. I don't know where you want to go with what the profession is. What is the profession? You know, and so maybe if we ask ourselves that question, maybe we can then start to go, okay, ballet can be a support. Let's say you want to do Broadway, right? You can sing, you can act. You just need some classical training. You need to have that pose. You need to be able to hold yourself. You know, you need to be able to do lots of pirouettes, which is something ballet teaches us. Great, you know what I mean, or whatever, right? And create a line. It's creating the line, fingertip to toe tip. And if we can make that more accessible and say, hey, with ballet, you can actually do these other dances. Maybe then we can start to bring in more as a way to support other art forms. And I would love to see more ballet companies out there. You know, maybe we just need more ballet companies. Maybe we need more ballet jobs, more dancers are needed, and then we'll get it, right? You know, so yeah, my answer would be change the class environment amongst the students, and create maybe more jobs that then, of course, more people would be attracted and doing the work that it takes, the sacrifice, yeah. Right? I mean, all the stories that we've heard so far, the ballet, you gotta sacrifice to get this. You sacrifice so much, what's the payoff? And so if we can get a good payoff and go say, hey, here's a great payoff for this and this and this and this, then we'll get more people. So there you go.
I also think that what's interesting is if you remove maybe some of that Eurocentric vision on dance, that you might feel more acceptance, that it won't feel so foreign the way that, you know, like you said, Broadway music videos might be more familiar and that ballet becomes foreign, but you add such a Eurocentric vision on it. Maybe many people do. And maybe that's a problem. I mean, also when I think about the great Black dancers, and I have done my research on all of you, and I've seen some videos of some of you, and there's something so special, like watching Debra dance circles around the white girls. Like, you know, there's something really joyous and beautiful about the Blackness of the dancers that we get to see. Lauren doing fouettes at the end of Don Q, you know, these are things that are special about us. And if they're celebrated by those in powerful positions, I think that's another way that we can see more acceptance, you know, not us trying to fit the mold, but us being comfortable in our natural hair and dancing the way that we feel, as opposed to trying to make ourselves smaller or different, you know. Next we have Charmaine.
Aesha really hit the nail on the head when she said, what are we bringing these young people into when we are giving them access to the academy? So yes, of course, access is the way, you know, you go into the community, because half the times they can't get to the academy. So you go and you create these programs, or you go to the community centers, the Boys and Girls Clubs, wherever, you go to them and just sort of introduce this in a way that they can accept it, because you have to meet them where they are. This is something new to most. And in that process, you're educating the parents too. So you're getting them on board with you as you slowly make this transition where the kids now are getting into the academy. Now, they're in the academy and the culture in the academy is not as inviting. It's not as warm. They still feel different. That's where the change has to happen there, but it starts from the top. It may take generations because this real conversation is, although it's been happening for years, the real conversation is just now happening. The real conversation, the uncomfortable conversation is just happening. So I love that Debra said, had it, you know, with the help of Lincoln Kernstein and George Balanchine, who they helped Arthur Mitchell, they helped Mr. Mitchell start the Dance Theater of Harlem. There was such excitement when Mr. Mitchell was starting the company. I remember because I was around. I wasn't in the school, but I heard about it through the dance troupe that I was with. And there was such excitement. And one was because as a committee, they came together to start this school. And it would, you know, he have a lot of kids at first, and it grew into this big school. He ended up in the church. He ended up getting kicked out because there were now too many kids coming to this church, and they from the firehouse on 152nd Street. And Judy Peabody basically gave Mr. Mitchell the money to be able to build TTH on 152nd in Amsterdam. So it's with the help of people that knew how to create a foundation and create, I'm just saying, a building so that kids that look like us can actually go and learn. And then he went ahead and brought in real quality educators. So from the beginning, you can't say if you went to Dance Theater of Harlem that you did not get quality educators, because they were all about the classics. They were all about training the body, making sure that you're hitting the position. So yeah, I am all about making sure that the culture in the institution is welcoming, warm, so the student can feel as though they can thrive. Without that, it's just, you know, in the door, out the door. That's all it's going to be. And then, you know, because just like Aesha said, suddenly we're in this, you know, rush to bring diversity. Well, you know, this conversation has been happening for years. And now the real conversation is happening. So people feel as though, oh, we've got to make this happen. And so the real genuine work, I question if this is really done in a genuine way, or whether this is just an illusion of inclusion, right? We don't really want that. We need it to be real. And so I remember talking to Mr. Mitchell for many years. We've had many conversations. He said, I had to create this because we had nowhere to go. It's still that way. So I'm not saying, well, maybe I am saying that. Maybe we need to create our own, because we're always asking, you know, we want to have a voice at the table. We need to make our own table. Make your own table. Until the gatekeepers develop a mindset of altering the culture so that all are welcomed, so that dancers, as they're developing their artistry, can become the greatest artists they can be. And you don't feel as though, well, okay, I got in here because, well, you look around and nobody else looks like you. Well, there's no more of that. We need to get rid of that. No more quota. There has to just be companies, schools, institutions, you name it, opera companies. The same thing goes for opera, where it's really multicultural, genuinely multicultural. And if one person is dancing the role of the Firebird or the Swan Queen or the Fairy, whatever that is, it is the person that best delivers the artistry and makes the audience feel as though they're doing something. I remember watching Ikolo. I remember when you got into the company and you were just, Ikolo turns like a top, and with no effort, everyone went to him and said, wait a minute, dude, how do you do that? He started giving pirouette classes. I thought, okay, this is it. This is it. Now we're sharing. It's not about, again, you know, our company was all about, okay, who's the best at what? How do you teach that other person? So we were sharing our information with each other. Andrea came in as this dynamic, I mean, incredibly polished artist. And yet Arthur Mitchell said, no, dear, you remember. She ended up within a year. She had a little bit of an injury. And then you came back from that injury 10 times better than when you came. I was so proud of you. I've watched these artists develop, and I can't tell you. Because our environment was so nurturing, we developed artists that were world class. I can't see this not happening with every institution, but again, we need the gatekeepers to be open, and it may take another 2 generations for that to happen, sadly. But at least we're having conversation really now. And the other part, you know, you have to, and all of that too, it is part of educating our parents, because, you know, there are a lot of parents, well, I don't want my son doing ballet. Why? Well, because they are lacking information, so they don't know. That's the only thing. They have one answer and they don't know the full answer. So we have to educate them on why this is important. You know, their child loves it and where they can go with it. And that's really what the parents want to know. What are they going to do with it? Right? So if companies and schools are more inviting and hiring the best, not because they are people of color, but they are awesome, then we're going to be fine. Yeah.
I also think that, I know my generation, that I think our plan is to just become the gatekeepers. You know, it's, I think a lot of us, and the panel that I was on a few days ago, I could see a lot of leadership minds there working. And I think that is one way that hopefully we can see change. There are now huge calls for diversity. Yeah. And as there's turnover in directors, I'm hoping that we'll see some places become more open-minded as hopefully directorships become more diverse. Andrea, I'd love to hear from you.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say that I agree with everyone on this panel. But I mean, for me, I'm very fortunate that I am working with a woman that I knew as a student, Margaret Tracy. We were in the school together. And we have very open and brutal conversations a lot. And the one thing I said to her, because she was like, why is it taking so long? Why are people so slow? And the one thing that I really feel in my heart that has to happen is that Black people need to be on boards of schools. They need to be on boards of company, because money is universal. Okay? If we're at the table with money, we can push the agenda further because we're at the table, you know? And so I had a student the other night, Friday night, beautiful, beautiful child of color that's at Newton, who's actually moving to Walnut Hill next year. She's going to be going to the school. And she came up to me and she was like, I'm so nervous about going to Walnut Hill this long. And I said, don't worry, I'm here for you. And she just started crying. I said, don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. I'm here for you. I'm going to take care of you. So that was very winded and long, but we got to get on these boards. We got to get on the boards. You know, I don't care how many teachers of color you hire, how many students you accept in your school of color. If we are not on the board, we're not going to push the envelope.
100%.
Absolutely.
Well, I just am so beyond thankful and grateful and honored to have been in everyone's presence today. And I just want to say a huge, huge, huge thank you to all of you for being here today and sharing your stories. It's I'm deeply inspired, and I'm really, really looking forward to when this comes out and the kids can see it, because as we've all been discussing today, it's the kids, it's the students that really need this, and they need to see this and hear this and know that we are in their corner, even if they don't know us. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I mean, Dance in Color is a young organization. We've been fortunate enough to raise almost $30,000, or about $30,000 in 6 months of operations, and we've already distributed most of it. Almost all of it, 99% will go to scholarships. We have 3 beautiful young Black girls in our scholarship program, and we are going to be expanding that soon. So for all of you to honor us with even a small amount of time is just so incredible. You all, I know that your careers are probably hard, a lot of hard work, but what they mean to me, to our organization, and to the young dancers that look up to all of you is just at such a high magnitude. You can't even, I don't think you can even imagine what it means to see people like you that have come before us. It is so special. So thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your stories and your experiences and your wisdom and knowledge.